I've been reading through the Westminster Confession lately, which is the confession of faith of all Presbyterians. All Presbyterian churches hold to the Westminster Confession of Faith, and I recently started going to a Presbyterian church, so I've been reading through it, and one thing stuck out to me. I can't stop thinking about it, and that is the Old Testament sacraments. So I grew up in a non-denominational church, very low view of the sacraments. We didn't even really call them sacraments, Baptism and the Lord's Supper were just symbols. Symbols we always did, but, just symbols. And so hearing about Old Testament sacraments, I was like, what the heck is that? And that is, the Old Testament sacraments would be circumcision and Passover. And it's they are continued into baptism and the Lord's Supper. And I never made that connection in my head. I kind of did with circumcision and baptism because it's said in Scripture. I believe one of the books written by Paul, he mentioned that instead of circumcision, you do baptism. So I always knew about that, but Passover being the forecursor of the Lord's Supper never occurred to me. I knew the Last Supper took place during Passover, but that I never made that connection of that was an Old Testament sacrament that the Old Testament church, the Israelites did every year, and that was transferred over, not in form but in substance, over to now the New Testament church, which we do the Lord's Supper. And so I just never put those two together, and it's that is, I can't stop thinking about that God would, God had a plan all the way. He didn't just when Jesus came, he just made up baptism and he made up the Lord's Supper. No, that was the plan from the beginning. From Abraham, with circumcision, and with the Exodus out of Egypt, with the Passover. That was the plan from the beginning. Obviously, different form. They did it differently than we do now with baptism and the Lord's Supper, but it's just I never put those together. And I can't stop thinking about that, which is pretty cool.